Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard and Hustle podcast. Today's guest, Kristen. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Efrain. How are you?
Good. Let's talk about this pickleball that you were just talking about. So you play pickleball?
I played pickleball first thing this morning. I live in a community where we are. But it's not a retirement community, but we skew older, and pickleball and golf and things like that are very popular. So I've been able
How
to
long
get
have you
into
been
some.
doing? To me, like pickleball is so new. To know that there's a community already out there playing it. How long
Oh
have you been doing
yeah,
it?
about 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Is
not
this
that
that
new
thing that
actually.
people? Is it the thing like I see you said 3 years? Is it the thing that people may not know about you? Like if someone meets you for the first time,
Maybe.
does that surprise them? Because it surprised me this morning.
Did it? I mean, so I,
I
I played
did.
sports my whole life. I was a college
Okay.
athlete. Um, in your competitive nature, we talked about competitiveness at times,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
your competitive nature doesn't necessarily like end when you leave college. And yeah, you can bring it with you to work in some ways, but sometimes competitiveness isn't always what's called for in work, even in some of the stuff I do, which is basically sales and business development.
Yeah.
So having a competitive outlet is nice.
I love it. I love that you wake up so early in the morning to do that because I wake up the first thing in the morning, I'm grabbing a cup of coffee and normally just get my day started, especially that we get to work remote or I'm always remote actually. But thinking about playing sports in the morning, I can't even wake up and go running sometimes. Like I'm gonna go running and then yeah, you know how that works out.
I
But I'm
love
I'm,
getting
I'm proud
into
that you
it
went to
first
pickleball.
thing. It's like the best thing to do for me. It works for me because now like my body's been moving around and now I can sit at my desk in this office and work for the next 8, 10 hours. So it's all good.
Love it. So Kristen, let's to people that want to know what kind of leader are you and what the organization you represent, if we can kind of get a little bit of that.
So I am very proud to represent a national nonprofit called Partnership to End Addiction. We've been around for over 30 years under a couple different names. In 2018, the organization came together under this new name because it was the merging of two legacy organizations, both dedicated to ending the addiction crisis, but they both came to it, or each of them came to it in a little bit of a different fashion. One organization was kind of a powerhouse of research and did a lot of policy work, was very much interested in really understanding. First, it was with cigarettes, like how can, why are people smoking? Why are young people smoking? What can we do? Looking at the evidence-based ways that we can drive smoking cessation, and then that became, how do we drive cessation of other substances, alcohol, marijuana, etc.
Yeah.
The other organization that came together was something that a lot of folks are more familiar with. It was called Partnership for Drug-Free Kids. And if you remember, there was a very iconic ad that ran, it seemed like all the time, with a frying pan, and there was an egg, and they said, hey kids, this is your brain on drugs, get the picture. Um, and, the really well-intended, incredible people who started Partnership for Drug-Free Kids believed in the power of advertising to get young people to think twice about using drugs. And you can argue how effective it was, and actually,
Yeah.
some 20, 30 years later, what we know, because we can, even under our new umbrella, we still do the research to understand why young people use, what's best for preventing use, delaying early use, and most importantly, what can we do to end addiction in this country. We have grand goals. I've been very involved with the organization in their 5-year strategic plan, and we are going to make a massive impact in reducing addiction, and we can do that because we do understand how and why young people start to use. And the reason that we're focusing on young people isn't that we don't care about the older people in this country and elsewhere who are struggling with substance use. Substance use it's a health issue, and it's rooted in adolescence.
Hmm. Yeah.
And something that I heard when I started with the organization about a year and a half ago is, for every year we can delay initial use of substances, the likelihood of addiction goes down dramatically. So what we call prevention or the delay of initial use is the single best thing we can do to end addiction. And it's even beyond that. So if we can get a young person from 15 to 16 before they start use, the likelihood of addiction goes down. From 16 to 17, it goes down. So a lot of what Partnership to End Addiction does now is we work with parents, professionals, policymakers on really getting them to understand the beauty of prevention and delaying early use. But we also recognize that young people are using, that treatment can be very effective, and we've got this incredible group of people who really understand that, evidence-based, effective ways that young people should be getting the treatment that they need if they are struggling with substances.
You talk about young people, even in the space doing drugs. You don't realize it. It's almost kind of common. I was actually just talking to some neighbors yesterday. We were just working out, and they were just talking about them doing coke at 16 years old, and I'm like in awe, like what? And probably because in my home I didn't see that, but that's it's happening in so many other homes, where they do see that,
Yeah.
or sometimes the parent has to go off to work, and now they're with another family member that does that. I think it is a thing that is needed. I always felt that when you have to help the kids at that young age, as early as possible, right? Not just drug use, but just in life, we have to pour into them because what they're learning, these are becoming habits of their lives. I think I told you this, my mom that probably since 17, 18 years old has been doing drugs, like, and still doing it, right? That's just kind of now our common nature to her. It's harder at that time,
Sure.
so what you're saying is let's help them while it's still easy. Not that we don't want to help them, but there's communities out there helping these folks, not enough helping these young individuals. Is that correct? I mean, when we think about
Well,
organizations,
I want to push back and say it's not necessarily easy,
okay.
right? I mean, if you've got a young person in your life who is struggling with substances, it's not like you can just wave a magic wand and they're going to stop using.
Mhm.
Um, but if we can get them treatment earlier, their likelihood of a long, productive, healthy life is so much better.
Yeah, I love it. And you had your own experiences with this, right? Is that how you get here?
Yeah.
Life brings this. I feel like life sometimes plays huge parts in who we become. Sometimes the unknown, really is to get us uncomfortable. You were in a very uncomfortable situation. Can we talk a little bit about, Kristen, why you changed the trajectory of what your career looked like to make sure that you still keep a legacy alive for someone that obviously you love?
Sure. Um, we lost a child to substance use on December 4th, 2020. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary. And we didn't know it at the time. The statistics I shared, not statistics, but the evidence I shared that,
Hmm.
folks who start using young are more likely to become addicted. But he started struggling, as far as we know, at 13. Um, he was my stepson. We shared custody with his mother and stepfather, so he would live in Arizona part of the year. He would live with us for part of the year. Handsome, smart, amazing athlete, had the world on a string. And we get a call one day that he was expelled from 8th grade for using. And we're like, excuse me? I mean, no. We were so shocked.
Yeah.
And so he was 13. When he passed, he was almost 28. So it was 15 long years of just everything you can imagine, incarceration, uh, treatment, recovery. He was pursuing a college degree at Arizona State and doing really well. He was very bright, very hard worker. Like, he had a great job, and he managed to do it all. And at the end, it was the one pill can kill, and it did.
Yeah.
And it was during
Wow.
COVID, and we were all locked down, and there was lots of things around it. But so it's, as you can imagine, you're a parent.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay. Well, I can't even imagine actually. You know what I mean? Like,
And I don't
I
want
couldn't
you
even
to. I don't
fathom that.
want you to. You'll
Yeah.
lose sleep. Um,
You know, I had to learn, like sometimes he says, oh, I could imagine. It's like, you have to be real with yourself. I couldn't, you know, it's a hard thing, but it really allowed you to pause your corporate trajectory and
it
say,
took a
I
couple
want
of
to do this
years.
differently.
It took a couple of years. So I was doing corporate sales for a long time. I was very involved in kind of the human capital space, selling
Mm,
software, and got to a point about a year and a half ago where I was just kind of like, it's time. I was given an opportunity in the form of a layoff, and I was given the opportunity to explore, doing something more mission driven and purpose driven.
mhm.
I did have a connection to Partnership to End Addiction. The gentleman who is the CEO is, we grew up in the same hometown. He's a lifelong friend. So, like on my son's anniversary, on his birthday, I would make donations to the organization, that kind of thing. And I reached out to him, and I started as a consultant, and now I've
Mhm.
been here a year and a half, and
Wow.
it's the best work I've done. It's best for me. It's hard. It's hard, but the people, the organization, and obviously the mission are second to none.
Yeah. I, those layoffs, those times where life is really challenging you and testing you, I can only imagine you probably asking yourself, like, what do I supposed to do now?
Oh
And
yeah,
then when you find purpose and you talk
two
about
kids
like
in
just
college. I'm like, ah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, oh my God. But being where you're at today, I can imagine kind of thankful for that layoff because you found purpose, right? You found passion,
Oh yeah.
understanding what you're doing today is helping other families. And I think even yourself had that mindset shift, recognizing that your child isn't horrible or criminal. Your child is sick and just needs support, right? That's the foundation. How many parents do you have to have this conversation with? I can imagine that parents that are dealing with this are thinking these things, but it's not true, right? Is that the
Yeah.
case?
I'm so glad that you said that. The one thing that I hear, so for first and foremost, I am not a clinician. I am not anybody providing services to the families we
Mhm.
serve. I stay in my lane. I connect people with the services that we provide, but I don't want anyone to think that I am in any way licensed to provide services to families who need it. I connect them with the people who are licensed to do that.
Got it. Okay.
And we have amazing services and resources, digital coaching, digital resources that are free to families. And I hear people say this. I had a conversation with a friend of a friend the other night. She has a son who's struggling with alcohol. And I just kept saying to her, you know, I'm with you and you're doing the right things and your son isn't horrible. Your son has a substance use disorder. He has an alcohol use disorder.
Yeah.
But what you said, it's really hard when your kid is going through it. There's so much shame and stigma with drugs, and we're trying so hard, both at our organization and across this industry, to reduce the shame and the stigma. 1 in 3 Americans are impacted by substance use. One in
Wow.
three. I mean, so me, you, and one other person, one of us is, I mean, in our case, both of us are, right? Your mom. But there's still so much of it. And I wish I knew now, or I wish I knew then what I know now, which is it's okay to be upset with him or
Mhm.
disappointed or concerned, maybe. But the last thing you want to do is to treat somebody who is struggling mightily with substances. In many cases, they were also struggling with some mental health issues. And in my son's
Mhm.
case, I suspect he probably was, but was somewhat undiagnosed. To make them feel worse, right?
Yeah.
To come in with a punishment, a punitive type of approach, that's not helpful. And the other thing that we know from all the research we've done over the last few decades is, taking a human-centered approach is so much more effective. And the people who are most capable of having a positive impact and helping their loved ones stay away from drugs, right? In that prevention,
Yeah.
early joy, early use, And to get loved ones into treatment if they need it, it's families, it's parents, it's other concerned loved ones. And that's who we serve at Partnership to End Addiction. It's the parents, it's the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the stepmothers like me. We're here for them.
Yeah. When you talk about this organization, you talk about 1 in 3. Is this an organization that is just located in one city? Your organization is just abroad throughout the country? What's the size of the organization look like?
So we are a national nonprofit. Our
Okay.
headquarters is New York City, but I don't live in New York City. We have folks living throughout the country.
Love it.
We serve the country. We can provide our digital services. So we have, if you have concerns about somebody in your life, maybe a niece or a nephew, you can contact our helpline and set up time to talk with a trained clinician, either by phone or by text. You can take part in an online support community. I've done that myself. We have a grief community that's really wonderful that is staffed by trained peer counselors, so other parents with lived experience. So in the case of the grief community, it's other parents who lost a child. There's so much evidence about the strength and the value of peers in addiction in general. Or, if you just want information, what is this pink cocaine I've been hearing about? What is vaping? What do I look for? We have so many resources on our website. It's drugfree.org. If you or somebody that you love or even care about a little bit, you think might be
Hmm.
even at risk of using, please go to our website. It's free. And the people who create the content on the website are brilliant.
I love that. I think about when I was a young kid, we had programs such as DARE, right? I think, what is it? Drug Abuse Resistance Education, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, or something like
it was
that.
really popular in schools for a long time.
Is it so? That's not around. Like, we're not really focused like that at the school level, like we used to be back then. Are we struggling there? Like,
No. So again, what we're learning about what works with kids and what doesn't, and specifically as it relates to substances, is scare tactics don't work.
got it.
When our son died, I'm gonna, the thing that my husband struggled with the most, he's like, how many times did I tell him it was going to kill him? How many times did I tell him? And I'm like, and now I know. Like, just telling
Yeah.
somebody that, scaring them that this is going to kill you, it's a very natural reaction, right?
Yeah.
It's not helpful. It isn't. And the brilliant people who work at Partnership and the amazing people who work around this country, because we also at Partnership work with professionals to train them so that they are more equipped
Mhm.
to serve young people who are struggling with substances and their families. We know that there's other ways to do this. We have great techniques like motivational interviewing to really get somebody on board, to set small goals. There's another. We also believe very strongly in harm reduction. Complete abstinence works for some people. For others, maybe that's a more long-term goal. The
Yeah.
first thing we want to do is to keep them alive. So we want to talk about using things like naloxone, which is an overdose reversal medication, and getting that into communities. We're seeing that more and more. And we are seeing overdoses going down, which is tremendous.
That's
We're
very good.
also
Yeah.
seeing, initial use in young people going down. So we're seeing so much progress, but obviously there's a lot of work to do.
If you can really speak to the parents in the community where stigma runs deep, what would you actually say first to them? Because, we talked about stigma, we talked about just parents kind of dealing with this, but there's also that stigma that's just kind of floating around as well.
For one, if I'm speaking directly to the parents, you did nothing wrong. I mean,
Mhm.
you probably feel this way. As a parent, you always feel like you're doing something wrong, right? Your kid has a bad day. What do I do? Um, but there wasn't any one thing that you did that led to this outcome for your child. So first of all, don't blame yourself. Second of all, you are not alone. There are millions of families across this country dealing with this. My husband and I recently moved to a small community, and a woman I play pickleball with, who was one of my pickleball team coaches. I learned through somebody that she lost a daughter to overdose. It's like, what
Oh,
are the chances? So I texted with her and let her know our story. There's a grief group here in this community where I live now, because there are parents my age or close around my age. There's enough parents who have lost a child to overdose or substances, and they've invited me to join the group. They have dinner once a month. So
wow.
you're not alone,
Hmm.
and there's help out there for you. Don't
When you're
don't
talking
do
about
this
just
alone.
not alone, and that's just like in so many different fields, but this one especially, where to know that there's groups around this, like how cool, right? I think when you're able to build something around this and be strong enough to hold these conversations, and when one person starts to share, how many more start to really open up. And the more that you start opening up, I mean, I experienced the sexual abuse and adoption, and especially on the sexual abuse side, I didn't talk about that until I was like 27 years old. And I remember the first day I had to talk about that, right, to my now wife, and just sitting in the car crying. I remember sitting in the car crying because now I felt like I had to text my friends because I felt like I wasn't being honest with myself or with
Mm,
them, and feeling all these emotions. You know,
right.
I
And
was at
beating
work on
yourself
my way to,
up, right?
yeah,
Beating yourself up for
100%.
being vulnerable.
But now I tell that story more comfortably because I know that it's not just about me. It's about every other person that may be experiencing this to this day, and allowing them to see that there is the other side. I mean, you're in the space of that, right? And being in these groups, you're in the spaces of that. Is that you guys? The more that can have this conversation, the more people we can ideally help. I mean, 1 in 3. That's a crazy number to really think of,
Yeah.
and then to you say someone in my own community has experienced that, that goes that 1 in 3, right? Like, I
There
can
we go.
imagine you said small community, like it's not like there's a lot of people in there, so it is definitely very scary to even think about. So I even raised my own kids. What's been one of the most surprising things you probably learned about prevention that many people won't even know?
I mean, honestly, I think it's what I shared earlier. The fact that if we can delay initial use, the outcomes are so much better. And like
Right.
the evidence is compelling and overwhelming and undeniable. Um, and I've heard these conversations too. I'm gonna, my kids know this. I'll admit it. I drank in high school. I drank plenty.
Mhm.
Letting kids, the whole like, well, I let them drink at home because it's safer, right? I'd rather them drink at home than drink out, with friends or, in a field. Drinking at home, it's not an ideal setup. And I think if parents, and modeling good behavior is important too.
Yeah.
Again, if we had to do it all over again, I would probably drink. My other two children are not. Neither one of them really consume substances. I have a son who's a pilot, and he really can't for
Yep.
legal reasons.
Yep.
And my daughter is a college swimmer, and it just doesn't really work well for her training. But neither one of them have much of an appetite for it,
Yeah.
which is great. And I'm sure the fact that they lost a brother when they were 16 and 19
Mhm.
has a big part to play with in it also. But if I had to do it all over again, I would really kind of just change my approach to, in our case, alcohol. We don't use other substances, and encourage them to not use. It's just it's so important, and raising healthy kids is the most important thing we do as parents.
Yeah, like you mentioned, just the modeling the behavior, like if it's happening at home, it actually quite, even just cigarettes in general. I think about
Same.
cigarettes.
Yes.
When I think about, I see parents, dads like myself, that are walking around with a 4 or 5 year old and smoking a cigarette. And I think to myself, like, okay, you smoke a cigarette, but you can't do that and by yourself outside, like really exposing kids. And of course they're going to see it, but we are those role models in our
Yeah.
kids' lives.
They're always
You know,
watching, right? They're always watching.
and kind of what you mentioned is when we say something, they can care less. What they see, for some apparent reason, feels a little bit more enticing to them. Like, wait a minute, I just seen him do that. Let me do that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is one of those. Even for myself, I try to be very mindful. even of the language I speak around my kids,
Oh gosh,
right?
yes, absolutely.
Because even that, like any little thing could be something that the kids pick up, and we
That's
got to be
right.
very, yeah, very mindful as leaders. I think what you've done to kind of leave this corporate world, go into this more of a nonprofit impact space. There's a lot of cultural adjustment. Um, what kind of what kind of dog? What kind of dog is it?
He is a 95-pound mutt who is 6 years old and will greet anyone who comes to the door with hugs and kisses. He is just massive,
I love
and
it.
we love him, but
I
he's apologies for that.
Oh man, that's a night. I lost mine actually. Man, time's flying. Probably a year and a half ago. I had a pit bull.
And he's
And I
part
would never,
lady, yeah.
yeah, I would never forget the morning that was like, we knew my dog wasn't doing well. I mean, my dog was 13, 14 years old, so lived a good life, but wasn't doing well. We woke up this morning. I know this is completely off topic, but we woke up. I was going to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, like I told you, right? Like I told you, that's just times I go to sleep, and I would go and let the dog out, and just she wouldn't leave my side. Very weird. I'm like, okay, so almost kind of like had to scoot her outside, like go outside before we go to bed. She just kind of stood there. So I said, okay, come back inside. And as I was going to bed, she laid right in front of my daughter's door. And then we wake up in the morning, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and my wife is like, I smell something. Obviously, the dog had, went inside, pooped inside. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, we can't just let it sit there. I got to wake up. But then I realized I'm cleaning, and I'm like, with the vacuum and all this, I'm like trying to move her, and she's not moving. And I can see her eyes are still open, but she just had no energy in
Yeah.
herself. So I was kind of like had to pick her up, and as you mentioned, these dogs is super heavy. Pick her up and move her, but she was just like almost like dead weight. And then as I look at her gums, are becoming really like pale white. I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. Right? I had this dog since she was like 3 weeks, and my wife gets on the floor, and as soon as my wife gets on the floor, my dog puts her head on my wife's lap, and that was her last breath. 6 o'clock in the morning is how I wake up. And of course, I'm bawling, crying, like I'm, oh my God, and we
But what a
take her to the
lovely way to
doctor.
transition for that dog, right in your with her head
Yeah,
in its lap. Oh.
yeah, yeah. And it was sad. It was sad for probably more sad for me than ever. But to this day, a year and a half later, we have like the paw print, and we have like this card with the hair in it and stuff like that. And my daughter in the fridge, my daughter's like, I miss Della. Her name was Della. I miss Della so much. And I'm like, but Della got to see us from being just boyfriend and girlfriends to moving out to getting married to having kids to buying a house. I'm like, this dog was really there for
Hmm.
every step of the way. I mean, times when me and my wife are not seeing eye to eye, the dog is still there. There's something about a dog. I love dogs, but when I hear dogs, it's a cool thing. But after this, I'm done. Okay, when my dog passed away, I got another dog, a little rat terrier that just barks at anything and everything that moves. Um, but I'm like, I'm done. I got two young kids, and I gotta take care of these dogs. Kristen,
You're
I
not
don't know.
done. You're not done. You're a dog person. You're not done. You're
I
not.
know, I know. I love dogs. What was that big we talked about? We were just talking about it before the dog started to interrupt the conversation here. What is the dog doing? Now, what is your biggest cultural adjustment when moving from that corporate training to the nonprofit addiction work? Do you feel like there was really an adjustment that took place?
Yes, in a good way. So, I consider myself decent at kind of situational awareness, I'll call it.
Okay.
So recognizing that maybe not everybody is go, 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 go. And, I went from a startup to this organization. And don't get me wrong, people at Partnership to End Addiction work hard, they work long. So it's not that, but it's just, it's such a different culture. It's much more collaborative and coordinated than competitive. And even, with the startup, like, oh, we're all on the same team, and there's still a lot of backbiting, and it's still corporate. It's just, it's not
Yeah.
as it's not a mission driven. And corporations like to say, well, they are mission driven. We are truly mission driven.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to end the addiction crisis. We're going to reach 21.5 million people by
I love it.
2030 who need our services. Like, that's a mission.
Yeah.
So it's just, it took me a little bit of time to like, okay, the way in which I present, I need to kind of ratchet it back. And I now that I've been here a minute, I'm like, maybe this is what I always should have been doing. Maybe I kind of remodeled myself for corporate because I work hard here and I come to work every day, grateful and be proud. And not that and I've had corporations that I've worked for that I am very proud of, but nothing like this.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure you guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Uh, So the nonprofit space is very you get to play every role, I'd say. If one day today you want to play marketing and tomorrow you want to play like I don't know, front line, they allow that, right? They want
Well,
you
we
to
do. I
be
mean, we have a full staff. I mean, we've been around for a while. We have
no
great
no
marketing. We have a great comms team. Amazing
for sure.
researchers.
But let's
Yeah.
be honest, in corporate world, when they hire you for something, that's all they want you to do. Like, don't get out of
Well,
this
I'll push
box.
back on you a little because when I was working for
Yeah.
smaller organizations, you have to wear a lot of hats. You really
Listen,
do.
to me, talking about corporate world, I feel like when it comes to corporate, and I say this more for those leaders that are trying to figure out, well, maybe I don't have that. Maybe I don't have this talent. Well, in a nonprofit, they allow you to explore your talents, right? They allow you to fail without getting upset or feeling like you're going to lose your job. At least I think in the nonprofit world a little bit more than
Oh
being in
no,
the
I
corporate
would agree with
space.
that. Yeah.
And you fail, they're looking at you like, wait a minute, we got to replace this person, right? Like I think it's easier to replace somebody in the corporate world faster and easier versus a nonprofit. It's so hard to really get committed, driven people that do this out of passion and purpose because not everybody in the space is doing it for the money. They could be elsewhere if they're really doing it for the money. But I also want to kind of go back to what you mentioned about the sense of I wish I would have been doing this sooner. I think it's along the words that you use. I heard this, and I also believe it because I lived it, is that everything that we do sets us up for who we are today, right? Because we're always evolving individuals. And I heard this recently from a leader is that, and I don't know how spiritual you are, but um, without tests, there's no testimony, right?
Like that.
And we're being tested every single day. There's so many tests that's happening in your life, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in life, that allowed you to be here. Because if you look back at everything, if it didn't happen the way that it did, would you kind of be in the space?
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know, right? We don't know. But I'm always when someone says, Efrain, if you could kind of wrap up your life in one word, what does that look like? I always say grateful because without everything, the sexual abuse, the adoption, the feeling alone, just the anger issues, all these things, going to therapy, right, changed my life. Understanding that now I'm a voice for the voiceless, changed my life. I don't know if I would have been in those situations or be as purposeful and be as passionate about some things if life didn't pan the way it is. So do you agree that you got here at the right time, maybe?
Oh yes.
Okay.
110%. Um, I agree with you. I like the test is what leads to testimony. I like that. Um, because I think in spite of what we've endured, I mean, I also lost my best friend to cancer last year. Like it's we lost a dog last year. Like it's been like for the last few
Mhm.
years. And I think if I were to have a word, it would be blessed.
Okay.
Um,
I love that.
I I know that my life here is temporary. I believe with every part of my being, I will see Bryant again. I hope every day that I do this work, and I have his picture right there, that I'm making him proud. He used to say to me, and the girlfriend that he had at the time of his passing said, he was always concerned with making you proud, Kristen. I don't know why me, but we had a wonderful relationship. Um, but that was a big thing for him, was making me proud. Like he was staying in school in part because he knew that education was important to me, and I really pushed him to get his degree because he was really smart. Um, now I flip it around. And I kind of look up at the picture and I'm like, I hope I'm making you proud now. And you talked earlier about legacy.
Hmm.
And I'm doing this for his legacy because he meant something. He may have been just shy of 28 when he died, but he has a lasting impact, not just on his immediate family and friends and his amazing girlfriend who we adore, but there's gonna be ripple effects. And if I can help to be a catalyst for that, I'm blessed.
I sit here and think about that, what you just mentioned, on why he may have said he wanted to make you proud. And I think about someone like myself that didn't grow up with a mom. I mean, I adoptedly, right? That was my mom, but biological mom, nor my biological father. And when we find someone that cares for us more than sometimes we care for ourselves, that means so much. And I can imagine that he felt that. He felt that you cared for him so much, even though ideally you guys weren't blood, right? It was still, wow, how can she care for me? I'm not even her own child. And someone like myself, I seen that in men that became mentors to me. I seen that now as an older gentleman, right? I don't know that
Wait, older? I don't think you
I'm
qualify.
35 years old, Kristin. What do you mean? I'm a little older.
Oh, go on, Efrain. Go ahead. Sorry, I
But
interrupted a beautiful thing you were
she
saying.
said, "Hold on, wait a minute." No, but as I got really in my 30s, I think was when I really started to appreciate my mom for who she was and what she did in my life. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why I had to go through some of these things. But you know what? She did the best she could of what she knew, and I respect that now as a father, as an adult, to realize, you know what? I'm appreciative of what you did, with what you knew. This was a woman that had 7 kids at 28 years old, 4 of her own, and took on 3 of her sister's kids. She didn't have to. When I hear that story, you realize we all have a story, and she could have chose any path. And when she walked away from her own family, that to this day are still living off government, still on drugs, she realized at that age, I had to do better for my kids. She had a choice. I respect her for those things, and I'm pretty sure your son also respected you for those things. So, of course, that's why he wanted to make you proud. And you reverse it and say, hey, I will never forget him. We will continue to cherish his name. I have a friend like that I didn't know him for a very long time. But when we talk about great people that just happen to have maybe the short end of the stick, I don't know what we would call it. But I had a friend at 30 years old found dead on the side of the road, but understanding who he was, I got to see who Jesse was. I still speak one to his sister because now I feel they were adopted because mom left both of them in a house at 5 and 7 years old, went to Haiti, never came back. Then they get separated. Then they go through all these foster homes, right? So they didn't have family. To me, that was a brother to me. I remember him living with me, but I also seen the side of him when he started to get into the drugs and started to change. And it was so hard for me because I had to almost kind of walk away
Yeah.
and say, Jesse, I love you for who you are and I care for you, but you have to start making the right decisions. And we're only like a year or 2 years apart. And there's still times I feel bad because I think about, well, I was 19 years old drinking with this guy. I'm 21 years old drinking with this guy. Was it that? Did that change his life? When
Oh,
all
guilt
these
is
things were
lovely,
going on
isn't
in his
it?
life, right? Like to know that there was a bipolar disorder, to know there was some mental issues. Man, as much as I thought I was doing great, was I also hindering the situation of his growth? So I cherish his name and I talk about him all the time because there's people right now that think they're in it alone. There's people that need to hear those situations of these
Yes.
young individuals that are leaving us too early for whatever those reasons may have been. And we just got to be more supportive. And I love how, you pushing him. It wasn't like you were saying, don't do this. It was like, hey, probably in reality, telling him better options. Hey, we could do this together. I can imagine by just talking to you, Kristen, you were that person that was trying to find all these different avenues. And here you are today, still living that life to make sure that other kids can find those other avenues. When we talk about programs in this organization, what kind of programs do you guys kind of offer so those that are listening can also kind of be tuned in and understand what you guys offer?
So the way in which we kind of position ourselves is we have kind of three audiences.
Hmm.
So parents, professionals, policymakers. When it comes to parents, and parents kind of in a global sense, parents, family, concerned loved ones. They can come to, I mentioned before, they can come to our website, drugfree.org, and just kind of look around. Whether you've got a young person in your life, a child, a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, and you want to do what you can to build up their resiliency, to build up what we call protective factors which are known to be incredibly helpful in keeping kids from even wanting to use, we have information for you. If you are suspecting that you have a loved one who's at risk or maybe starting to use, there's articles, videos, courses you can take. We have a risk assessment where you can answer a series of questions and you'll get expert feedback. Like it sounds like there's reason for concern, and here's some resources that you can use right now. And then all the way to, how does insurance work? I need to get my kid into treatment. We have something called an insurance resource center. You can go on the website and learn, you have rights. There's insurance parity laws in this country. They're not enforced particularly well, but we do have rights. So kind of across the continuum, we have digital resources for parents. And then I mentioned earlier, we have trained professionals who work for Partnership to End Addiction and also who volunteer for Partnership, who are trained, who are leading our helpline. And you can get one-on-one digital coaching either by text or by phone. I love both ideas. It really depends on your comfort level. Sometimes if you're at work and you're kind of half in, half out because you're worried about your 13-year-old who just got suspended in the 7th grade or 8th grade, you don't want to talk to somebody on the phone, but you can text. Here's what I think's happening, and it's personal, it's confidential, right? So you don't have to worry about stigma and shame, but it'll be helpful. And we have online support communities. So for the parents, we've got all kinds of free digital resources and digital coaching. For professionals, and this is a lot of the work that I do, whether you are maybe a prevention specialist, somebody working at a school, somebody working in a boys and girls club, after school activities, we do professional development, we do informational sessions for parents and community members. Maybe you live in a state where marijuana is now legal for recreational use. What's that mean for our young people? Right? I lived in Colorado for 23 years. We were the first state in the nation to make it, legal to use cannabis recreationally. And I think Colorado did a lot of good things around it, but I think where the gap is what does this mean for our young people? So we do a lot of work here at Partnership on that, but when it comes to training professionals and to informing communities, we have resources for that. And I mentioned earlier as well, for the clinicians who are working with young people, so it's social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, we have evidence-based trainings. So for those who maybe you have substance use expertise, but you don't work a lot with youth and adolescents, we have trainings to help. Maybe you want to involve more family engagement in your practice. I mentioned earlier, families are the single biggest lever for helping young people overcome substance use disorder. We have trainings for those. And then when it comes to policy, we have an amazing team of policy experts who are working on things like insurance parity laws, like, hey, we need to start thinking about in those places where marijuana is legal for recreational use, what are we doing to protect our young people? Right now, you might be familiar with the opioid settlement funds that have been released in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of communities are getting a lot of money, which is wonderful. The problem is not a lot of communities know what to do with it. So they're kind of like, let's get a ping pong table for the rec center because that'll give kids something to do and they won't do drugs. Yeah. So what we have is expert recommendations. We have a brand new guide out, and it's on our website, drugfree.org, on what communities should do if they are the recipients of opioid settlement funds. And a lot of what we're going to recommend is work around prevention, right? Let's get upstream. Let's keep kids from using. Let's delay initial use so that we can prevent addiction.
Such a good conversation. I can't even believe how long we've actually been going, almost 50 minutes now. As we start to wrap this up, what single action would you ask every listener to take this week to just support someone dealing with the addiction in their life?
Um, if there's someone in your life, whether it's a neighbor, a child, a friend, who is using, just remember this is a health issue that is rooted in adolescence. They're not horrible people. They're not lesser than. They're struggling with a health issue. And just like, we've changed. I mean, I'm young, I'm old enough to remember, like, we used to say, cancer.
Old enough? What do you mean? I'm just joking.
Like, we used to whisper the word cancer, right? You didn't talk about cancer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now we talk about it openly because it's affected so many of us.
Hmm.
We're there with substance use and addiction. It's affecting 1 in 3 of us in this country. It's time to start opening up our minds and our hearts to this issue. And that's where partnership is, right? Our logo, if you ever see it, it's a heart and a check mark, right? It's heart because we come to this with compassion. It's a check mark because we'll always be accountable. And we're only going to bring to this issue evidence-based, research-backed truth.
Where can people find more? I think you've mentioned it throughout, but where can people find maybe socials? I think you mentioned the website. Are you on LinkedIn if people wanted to kind of reach out, have more conversations around this topic? If you could just kind of just say all that before I give you that last question.
Yeah, we are on all the socials. We are on, I think the only thing we're not on is TikTok at this point, but we've got a
What?
really, I know, not yet, we're considering it. But we're on Facebook, Instagram, and our Instagram feeds are terrific. We're getting a lot more creative in that. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Kristin Lamendola on LinkedIn, or if not, I'm the only one with this hair. So you'll find me. Um, Please do reach out. We have a new offering coming out. I mentioned earlier quickly, we have this new 5-year plan, and by the end of 2030, our intention, and I know we'll do this because we are so aligned on this, is that we're going to reach the 21.5 million people in this country who have young people struggling with substances. So that means partnership needs to, we can't do this alone, right? So I run a community partners network where we work with local organizations across the country. We're up to almost 360 of them at this point, getting our resources out in a broader way so that we can help them help other people in their communities. But another thing that we're launching now is for employers. So if you work for a company, if you work for a company and you're using substances yourself, you may have support through either your insurance or through an EAP. What you don't have is if you're a parent and you either have somebody who's struggling or you're concerned that somebody is struggling, it's having an impact on your work, right? We talked about this earlier. You're probably not showing up as your full self, probably less productive. So we're providing a workplace benefit where your HR organization can put in the suite of benefits a curated set of our digital resources and access to our digital coaching, and you can get it right through your workplace. That's something that I'm doing. It's called our Family Resilience Network. And if somebody would like to learn more about that, I'd love to chat with you about it. It's a beautiful way to align with the nation's coaching catalyst for ending youth addiction, but also to support the people in your organization for the benefit of the organization. Excuse me.
I love that. What gives you, as the final question, what gives you hope when you think about the next generation of families impacted by substance use? I know you mentioned that number plenty of times, and I can pretty much think that maybe that's a lot of the hope, right? It's that plan that you guys created. But anything else that you can kind of add to the hope you have for the next generation?
I love that question. So something that we've been circulating internally, and now we're starting to share it externally as well. We talked about the need to delay initial use, right? There's really hopeful statistics showing that the number of people, the number of, I'm sorry, the number of young people who have said that they are not doing substances by their senior year is going like this. So when I was a senior in high school, it was about 40% had used substances by their senior year. It's been almost cut in half.
Wow.
And if we have anything to do with it, it's going to keep going down. That's
Yeah.
tremendous.
I
So
love it.
we've got our work cut out for us, but we know it's the right thing to focus on, and that's where our focus is.
I love that you found this place of passion, purpose. Unfortunately, obviously, sad things, hurtful things had to happen for us to kind of find our way, I guess, in life. But to know that you're here, I'm pretty sure he's proud. I'm pretty sure you're proud of the work that you're doing. And there's so many other parents that are really proud that you stood up and became a voice to those that feel like they're alone. That's a huge factor, I think. One, today, just seeing the smile, the happiness that comes from you is because you love what you do. It is really a purpose thing. It is a passion. So we thank you for having this conversation. Can imagine we have another conversation as these stats start to get lower. We got to talk about it because I think it's a really cool spot to be in, especially when we talk about helping our young ones. I'm in the high school, so I get it. I see these young kids all the time. Matter of fact, before we hop off, just the other day, Halloween, it was teens. I guess it was a grandma's house. The grandkids were throwing a party. I knew it was teens because I see them all pull up. At 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I hear gunshots firing. And I can only imagine what else was happening in the house when there was no adults, right? It was young teens in high school. Grandma wasn't home, and she let them use the house. We got to be very mindful of where our kids are located as well, right? So there's just so many things that we could really talk about. We just don't have the time. But I appreciate you. I think we definitely tapped into a lot, and we'll have part two at some point, Kristen. And I go try pickleballs as well. Pickleball is what it is. Pickleball.
You let me know
Guys,
when you play pickleball. It's a
yeah,
hoot.
yeah. You say you're in Arizona, right?
I'm sorry?
You say you're in Arizona. Was that correct?
No, I'm on the East Coast.
Where did I get Arizona? Did you guys live in Arizona at some point? You
No,
said?
that's where my stepson was part-time.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm like, wait a minute. There was Arizona somewhere. All right. Well, Kristen, thank you guys so much. My name's Efrain. This is Kristen. This is the Heart and Hustle podcast. I will see you guys on the next one. Laters.
Thank you.